Last night, as the world lay shrouded in darkness and quiet, your person was wide awake, trapped in a restless whirlwind of thoughts and feelings. Every hour that passed without sleep was filled with the weight of a secret burden. The truth they've hidden for far too long. Their mind kept returning to you. The space between your hearts growing like an untreated wound, refusing to heal. The shadows of doubt and regret crept deeper, gnawing at their spirit with an intensity they could no longer ignore. God says, the night is no longer a haven for deceit. The moon trembled behind ragged clouds as your person faced a personal reckoning in the silence. Their thoughts were a battleground, torn between past errors and a future that demanded courage, honesty, and difficult truths. A divine presence surrounded them, watching, waiting for the moment. They'd opt to shatter free from the bonds confining them, trapped. In those grim, wakeful moments, a resolution emerged. A resolution carrying the might to alter destinies and redefine your relationship's trajectory forever. Archangel Michael's sword loomed near, a tacit warning that what transpires next exceeds human control. It's a divine decree. Last night wasn't merely another restless night. It was a pivotal moment. Your companions straddled realms, the past enslaving them and the future promising if they dare to rejoin the love persistently lingering in their heart. This is the instant your life alters. The decision's been made and the heavens await. You can't disregard what unfolds. The room was dim but slumber eluded. Your companion was torn. Gazed at the ceiling in quietness as 1,000 unvoiced words weighed heavy on their heart. The night enveloped them like a cloak, smothering in its hush. Yet it was your memory that made it hard to draw breath. Their spirit quivered beneath the surface, replaying moments of your laughter, your sorrow, your departure when you walked away. Every second passed like a scrape on their guilt, etching truths they've long hidden. The sheets entangled their legs like ropes, each memory thread reminding them of what they once cherished and discarded. They tried to ignore it, tried to rest, tried to persuade themselves that the choice they made picking another person, allowing distance to grow between us, was fair. But tonight that illusion shattered because something snapped in the atmosphere as the clock chimed 1:11 a.m. God declared this as the moment they felt a sacred flame ignite their heart. This wasn't merely remorse. They sensed your sorrow resonate within their very core, felt your silence shout louder than any storm they had faced. It was a divine reckoning, and heaven refused to let them escape anymore. Tears welled in their eyes, not out of missing you, but because they understood the depth of their harm. The pain in their chest wasn't just yearning, it was conviction. God penetrated the arrogance that shielded them. Now their spirit was disintegrating like thread torn loose by a fierce gust. In the darkness, they sat up on their bed, clutching their head, whispering your name silently. Outside, the moon shuddered behind ragged clouds, its light dancing in the window like a heartbeat. They felt as if they were crumbling, fading, not physically, but emotionally, because the old self couldn't bear the burden of your sorrow any longer. Then the phone screen illuminated. A message, one unexpected, a name they avoided, a trace of the third party still tangled in their life. A bond forged in bewilderment, not honesty. The name alone made their chest constrict because that person was no longer a partner, but an obstacle between their heart and yours. God says, they've reached the brink, and what follows will change both your futures irrevocably. The air in the room thickened. They felt observed, not by a person but by something divine. A presence so sacred, so intense that they couldn't disregard it any longer. It was not rest they required, it was freedom, it was confession, and it was necessary, about to start. The message on their phone wasn't lengthy, but it struck like lightning in their bloodstream, just 5 words from the other person. One needed discussion now. It wasn't love in that statement. It wasn't concern. Type 222 to claim it. It was fear. It was control. It was the thread of manipulation finally snapping free. Your partner didn't respond immediately. They sat there frozen, staring at the glowing screen as if it bore a curse. Because deep in their core, they knew something had changed in the relationship realm. What once seemed bearable, even cozy, had become oppressive and gloomy. The facade was cracking. The mask of the other person had fallen off. God says the truth can only hide for so long before heaven calls for it to be unveiled. And tonight that unveiling began with a chat neither of them could dodge. They stepped outside into the chilly night air, clinging to the phone as if it were a confession. Every breath formed clouds in the air, yet it wasn't the cold that made them shudder. It was what they were about to reveal. The call connected, and the voice on the other end was already trembling, asking about last night. The third party told you that your heart nearly stopped because they dreamt of you, not physically but spiritually. They saw your face in a dream so vivid it felt more real than anything they were experiencing. You didn't speak, but your eyes did. Your pain poured from the vision like a storm from heaven. And they woke up shaking, knowing they couldn't continue in this lie anymore. I can't keep pretending. Finally, your person said, their voice low and weary, I need to be truthful. Silence on the other end. At last, and then a harmful whisper. Were you with them, isn't it so? They didn't respond. They didn't need to. The truth was already leaking through the line. The third party's tone changed. Accusation turned to desperation. Desperation into venom. But your friend wasn't affected because for the first time in months they were seeing clearly. That relationship wasn't love. It was punishment. It was an escape from responsibility. But it could never replace the soul bond they shared with you. The other person started to yell, hurling every manipulative weapon they had. You'll regret this. You'll lose everything. You think they'll take you back after what you did. But even their voice began to crack because deep down they knew. The power they once held was slipping like sand through trembling fingers. Archangel Michael says, the snake is hissing louder now because it knows the sword is coming, is close. And that's exactly what happened next. A sound behind your back like wings touching stone. The street lamp flickered. The air around them turned golden, charged with divine energy. Archangel Michael stood in silence across the street, unseen by people but undeniable in spirit. His sword was drawn, his face fierce, his command clear. Choose now, no more in between. The call ended. Your person didn't need more time. The decision was no longer emotional. It was divine. The lie had lasted long enough. The person they were pretending to love was no longer just a mistake. They had become a spiritual hindrance to your destined connection. And tonight, the separation started. The whisper your person once ignored became thunder in their chest. Return to the one who held your soul when you couldn't hold it yourself. The moment the call ended, they realized they needed to return to the one who was meant for them. Call ended, the atmosphere thickened like a fog cloud settling over your shoulder. Type, God is good, if you love God. The phone hit the floor as their legs grew weak beneath the weight of emotional turmoil. That's when the bright light intensified. Not from a lamp, not from the moon, but from the air itself, the glow of something supernatural approaching. Archangel Michael declares, that's enough. His voice didn't sound like thunder. It was like thunder. It echoed across the night, invisible to human ears, but resonated like a fire inside your soul. His wings expanded behind him like the edge of eternity, brushing against building edges, causing even the trees to shake. There was no room left for doubt, no room for excuses. This was a divine confrontation. Your person couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't even cry. They felt seen in a way no human ever had. Have you ever noticed them? Michael's gaze didn't merely observe them. It penetrated through them. Every lie, every procrastination, every moment they disregarded the pain of missing you, it all became evident. Yet there was no judgment, just truth. Unadulterated, straightforward, divine truth that pierced deeper than any knife. God states, you weren't made for fakes. Your soul recognizes the voice of the one I truly called for you. And that voice is still murmuring your name in quiet moments. Michael aimed his sword towards the horizon, and what you saw made your entire body tremble. A vision unfolded in the air, clearer than a mirror, displaying two futures side by side. In one path, they remained where they were. Their soul decayed slowly in the embrace of the wrong person. Success wilted. Light faded. Love eroded until only numbness lingered. Another path, they returned to you. Not in arrogance, not in love, but in submission, with injuries, with honesty, with regret. And on that path, heaven smiled, peace resumed, purpose awoke. The very hue of their life was revived. And Archangel Michael said, decide. There was no timer, no negotiations. The moment was now. And though your person still harbored fear, embarrassment, and doubts, they stepped into the light of the second vision. That step alone shattered something in the spiritual realm. Lightning did not flash, but a wind swept through the street like a sigh from heaven, silencing every deceitful voice. The third party, wherever they were, sensed it. A separation, a breakdown, a divine disconnection that no message, no threat, no apology could mend. Your person knelt to the ground. The street was quiet, but the sky echoed with silence. Spoken, God said, "Tonight I have freed them from a bond that never originated from me." The decision was made. The chains were shattered. The countdown to their return started. They weren't sure how they would explain it all to you. They didn't know if you'd ever welcome them back again. But that no longer deterred them because Archangel Michael had made it clear if they remained in that fake connection one more day, they'd lose not just love, but their own divine alignment. Now they were awakened, marked, set apart again. The path forward wouldn't be easy, but it would be sacred. The first light of dawn was still concealed, but your person's heart had already risen, heavy with a new determination. The night's struggle, the fight between darkness and truth, left no room for retreating. They knew that. Whatever actions they take now will etch a course through their fate, permanent and real. Their mind relived the episodes. The unkept vows echoed in darkness. The cold distance that expanded like a quiet tumor. The silent petitions they never dared to send to you. But God says redemption isn't tethered by the past, but by the bravery to confront it. And your soul found that bravery bleeding through their being. They rose from the knees where Archangel Michael's presence had confined them. Their breath was shallow, their hands trembling, but their spirit was kindled by a strong flame. A divine fire consuming doubts, arrogance, and fear. The burden of the third party's threats no longer enslaved them. They had chosen the path of truth, regardless of the price. This wasn't an easy choice. It wasn't convenient. Request for forgiveness or a desire for solace. Type 1111 if you love God Jesus. It was a religious reorientation, a submission to heaven's will that bore your name in its holy. Scriptures, the room around them pulsed with divine power. Shadows receded like frightened spirits as golden light poured through damaged blinds. The moon quivered behind ripped clouds one last time, yielding to the approaching sun. Your being felt a fracture within, a final shattering of illusions that had imprisoned them. They sent a message not to a third party, not to the past, but to you. It was straightforward. It was sincere. It was a statement cloaked in vulnerability and hope. A signal sent across the distance where quiet had reigned for too long. God speaks. I have opened a door that no one else can shut. Archangel Michael stands by, his sword sheathed, prepared, watching over their chosen way. The route back to you is narrow and steep. It requires honesty, humility, and strength beyond ordinary limits. Yet it's the path that leads to restoration. Your individual is ready to tread it. The night's suffering forged a new beginning. The memories of restless nights, ghostly whispers, and divine encounters have combined to shatter their bonds. They will now wear their scars openly, not as embarrassment, but as emblems of a battle fought and a victory won. The world around them is awakening, but your individual is already transformed. The decision they made in the darkest hour will resonate through both your lives like a sacred tremor. Since some choices once made in accord with heaven cannot be reversed. Thanks for watching this God message. May God Jesus will grant you abundance in every aspect of your life. Type 222 if you agree.